He is summoned to another world for the second time, and becomes the most powerful wizard again. Yuki is an ordinary student enjoying his boring school day, and asks what his friend Yuhai is looking at. He tries to remind him not to interact with him, because people start making annoying rumors about them, but he doesn't care that they are just childhood friends. He notices how she let her hair grow and asks if she wants him to cut it again. Yuki finally opens up a bit, smiled at him to do so, and claiming that he won't change. She smiles at him, happy that he accepts, and tells her that they will always be friends. It's dark and a circle appears on the classroom floor. Everyone starts to panic, except for Yuki, who seems to understand what's going on after a few seconds. Everyone in the class opens their eyes, and they're in the desert. They see Yuki looking around, looks and is very excited because he knows Itoi wants to know where he is. But everyone's attention suddenly shifts to a nearby commotion. The students see some chemical soldiers walking in their direction. As they speed up, the panicked students run away, except for Yuki, who stands there about magic power. Yuhai, not wanting to see his childhood friend hurt, quickly grabs Yuki while one of the soldiers tries to break them up. Some foot soldiers are running in their direction to fight the first ones. They call demons. The students watch the two groups fight, but after looking at the demons again, Yuki thinks the war must be over by now. Cries. Yuki begins to feel pain in his chest, and realizes that he is cursed. A girl riding a horse appears and tells the students to retreat to safety while the royal knights protect them, but Yuki seems to already know who the girl is. She and the rest of the soldiers fight against the horde of demons using swordsmanship and magical. Yuhai is amazed at how strong they look despite their very young looks. Yuki is not surprised by this. Instead, he seems proud of both of them, and from this protection after taking the Destiny King to the castle begins to retreat using, and his daughter Margaret thanks the heroes for coming to help. She explains that their kingdom has been invaded by demons, and just as a group of heroes were summoned to their world 5 years ago, the students are confused and unable to understand the situation. 5 years ago a hero was summoned to their world, and he defeated the demons and brought them peace, but suddenly that hero mysteriously disappeared. The king immediately asked the heroes to continue between the demons, and the animal relatives asked to end the ongoing war with their help. Each student was forced to learn and teach swordsmanship with the help of the LCA, but Yuki intended to skip all the hard work and just enjoy the trip. First praises her calmness in this strange world, but then mentions that her selfishness is related to the former hero. He tells her to go back to training, but he just mocks her. He decides to teach her, but she just slapped her. Heart skipped a beat as she dodged his attack when she felt his hands touch her. Yuki was a former hero. He knew it was her right away from the way she treated him, and using him as a chair, he convinces her that he's back for good. Glenn shows up not knowing what's going on, but they fill him in, and Elka realizes he wouldn't be acting this way if he wasn't the same person he was before the hero. They quickly go and make another comrade tea, but he was not surprised. But despite the fact that he was a newcomer, he already knew that he sensed Yuki's magical power. Then Yuki once promised to return, and now his 3 companions remind him that he did it. At first, he was surprised, but then he was greeted with warm smiles on their faces. Yuki then thought that they could have died while in the other world, and quickly changed his expression. He wondered why the demons were attacking again. The group quickly reads his mind, and informs him that they have a number of questions, asking him how he managed to return to this world, and why he seems like a different person. From their point of view, they explain that he simply disappeared after his last battle, but Yuki still doesn't understand why. He said that he fought against his partner Toma, and took some hits and injuries, but after Yuki managed to hit Toma's shoulder, the magic ball slowly began to expand and he returned to his original form, reborn in the world, her memories and magical power, and somehow she was summoned to this world once again. Thea also doesn't understand how it happened, and the LCA mentions what the princess said earlier, that this last summoning is not a coincidence, but Yuki doesn't want to give it the proper importance. Now she wants to know what happened to Toma after taking his last hit. If Toma is still alive, he mentions that he is probably the one behind the recent demon invasion. Theo is cursed by Toma's power, asks if it is controlled by, and Yuki confirms that it is. He felt magical power from the demon a few days ago, so the only explanation is that Toma is behind everything. Elko explains they searched for Toma just like they did for Yuki, but they couldn't find anything. But now they're Yuki, they know that the living also believe that Toma is a soldier, hastily interrupting them by claiming that he was asking for King Glame. Glenn mentions that Yuki's companion is working hard, and the ELCA mentions that Yuki was the first to get involved, but Yuki didn't. His plan is to just travel around the world after the final battle, But looking at the scene, Yuki finds himself in this situation. Inside the castle, Yuki begins to ask what Toma is planning, complaining that the king never accepted the peace treaty 5 years ago and decides to declare an all-out war against the demons, but tries to delay it because their emissary has not returned with the news after being sent to the demon continent. The demons invading them and summoning the heroes at the same time is a sign that there must be war, the king mentions again, and that he should never have trusted the former hero to make a peace treaty. If she's gone, it means they made a bad decision at the training ground. Yui is practicing magic spells because she seems to have a natural talent for it. Yuki tells her that she's talented. She congratulates him and thanks him, but he quickly notices that something is wrong with him. She asks what's wrong and asks if he's training to hurt people, and why anyone has to go to war. Yuki knows the truth, and he doesn't know how to answer her because it might hurt her. But even then, feeling that she's getting better, she tells him that she'll use her magical powers to protect him at night. More training, but Yuki has already made up his mind. He will go out and stop the war by himself again. He thinks that this war is a stupid thing that Toma is creating, and the one who is supposed to stop it is looking at him, starts saying 3 smiles, wants to go on his old adventures with him, but Yuki refuses. He has to go alone. Besides, they can't leave the castle and the students by themselves, and if Toma started the war in the castle, also mentions that someone should stay because of course he attacks her, and that's reason enough for them to stay and help the kingdom. But before leaving Yuki, her weapon needed one thing. The group uses invisibility magic to sneak around the castle's warehouse, goes forward to drive out the guards, and the group reminisces about the old times they always had in front of them during their explorations in their dungeon. Then he starts to lock the room, but Oi notices something strange and sees walking into them a huge black Yuki he calls Kiramaru, sees the sword, but the guards rule. Elka is beaten to find the guard, and they begin to search the entire castle. The invader's bride does everything to delay the situation, and finally slips past the castle walls, allowing Yuki and Elka to leave the castle. Everything to delay the king from starting the war, hoping that it will give Yuki enough time to stop Toma and the demon invasion. But at the same time, seeing Yuki enter the warehouse, Yui manages to follow him. He asks why and what said. Where is he going? He decides to reveal the truth, explaining that he was called to this world for the 2nd time, and that he needs to meet someone to stop this war. Ears tears in his eyes, and asks him to promise to be with her helpful, but Yuki won't let him get hurt. It's too dangerous for him. He can barely contain his feelings, but he remembers his promise, and tells him to close his eyes, and instantly approaches her. She casts some wind and fire magic, and the hairstyle she was promised stiffens, and with a smile and promises to be strong again and protect her. She taps her forehead and says that if she is next, if the journey escapes him, he says that he will pass the test and accompany him. We see an old man arguing with his customer, who sells high-end jewelry of the highest quality in the entire kingdom, but he refuses to sell his items to a young man who doesn't know their value. Proud as a craftsman, a buyer asks the price of a particular brooch, but the old man says it's not about money, it's about his pride. His granddaughter Rei appears asking about the commotion, and the man says their time is being wasted. It turns out to be Setsu from the past, and he offers a sack full of gold, causing the man to instantly change his mind. After Setsu leaves, Rei asks her grandpa about his pride as a craftsman, but he teaches her although pride is important, everything has a price. He ends up passing away, and after the funeral, Ruri takes over to complete her grandpa's last job. She makes her way on a carriage at night, but the horse suddenly comes to a stop. A giant boar lunges at her and she is knocked to the ground. She was on her way to deliver the brooch, and is relieved to see it wasn't damaged. She puts it back into her bag, but finds that the boar is still there. She tries to negotiate with it, offering it food and even gold, but it's no use. However, she gets saved by Setsu, who happened to be passing by. He asks if she is okay, and she instantly offers to pay him. Setsu says it's not necessary, just happy to have helped her. But Rei was taught by her grandpa that nothing in life is free, but Setsu tells her not everything is about money, and Ruri seems to be reminded of the he-are from the past. Setsu wonders why she is transporting goods without a guard, but Ruri says she was in a rush and couldn't find one in time. Setsu reminds her that money is no good if she dies and wishes her luck. Ruri asks him to be her guard, but Setsu says he is busy with his own mission. He begs him to take her as far as he can because she needs to deliver her package, and Setsu ends up agreeing to accompany her to the nearby port. They take her horse, but Ruri is sad she had to leave her other goods behind, thinking of all the money she is losing. Setsu asked about her package, but she refuses to show him even if he is her guard, saying it's too valuable. They make it to the port town, and Setsu is surprised to see how much it has grown. Ruri explains that after the war ended 5 years ago, trade started to boom and the town grew. She says that she hired a ship to carry her the rest of the way, but when she gets to the dock she finds her sheep's trip has been cancelled, and that all the ships going to the demonic continent have been put on hold for the foreseeable future because of the war. Rei is determined not to give up, so she asks around all the other hips, but everyone thinks she is crazy, wanting to go to the demonic continent during a war. Setsu watches her and decides he should help her out, but she is suddenly approached by some knights who claim to be conducting poor inspections. They asked for her ID, and Ruri shows them her documents, but the knights look down on her since she is a merchant because they think she only cares about making money. They demand to see what's in her bag, but he refuses to show them, and they find him suspicious. They try to confiscate him, but Setsu starts to introduce himself as a security guard. He asks if they have a search warrant, but they tell him to mind his own business if he knows what is good for him. Setsu refuses to back down, so they prepare to teach him a lesson, and Setsu throws them to fight him, but they start to attract people's attention, so the knights decide to let them go for now. Ruri gratefully jumped on him and asked how he owes her a lot, but he says he'll treat her to a meal, and Setsu praises her for being calm in such a situation. He wonders how she knew the rules of permission and she learned a thing or two from Blanc. Looks like he says that he will try to find a ship, and if necessary, Ruri will continue to search for him around the city or by him buying a ship himself. Setsu thinks that's nonsense and says that he's actually going to the demon continent, and he can take her if he can. In the end he agrees to rest. He tells her not to push herself so hard. Rei agrees, so they end up getting a room. Setsu tells her it's her turn to use the bath. Ruri asks her to watch his box. She is taking a bath and Setsu wonders if everything is alright, but she tells him that she trusts him. Even when she shows him the brooch inside, she is surprised to see it, and Ruri explains that it was her grandfather's last work, that the brooch was her grandmother's most. There was someone who had valuable work, and one day brought it back for repairs. He did his best to fix it, but his health deteriorated so he couldn't deliver it on his deathbed. He told Ruri that even though money was important, teaches that it is only because it allows you to protect yourself, the things that really matter, and sacrificing everything for that is true pride. It means that he entrusted him with his last job, regardless of what he promised. He left it with Setsu, goes to take a bath and reminds him not to steal our work money, but is happy to meet him, and happy that he is about to finish his grandfather's last work. Setsu examines the brooch and finds that the protection magic he used on it is broken, so he later worries for the person who gave it to him. At night when the two are sleeping, the knights come looking for them, accusing them of being demon spies, and approaching their room, but Setsu becomes aware of them. The knights come in and Ruri gets scared. They jump out the window and they run away, but the knights cut them off. Setsu jumps and keeps running. When Rei gets nervous, the knights follow but end up slipping on the bottles, which traps you, but they end up in a dead end, and the knights they chase Ruri. They are confused about what they are going to do, but Setsu challenges the knights to fight, but Setsu gets angry and jumps off the edge. Ruri thinks he is going to die, but something pops out of the water lad, and they land on a giant sea serpent, which summons Livia. The knights are shot when they see this, and Setsu Lavia tells them to head for the demon continent. As the knights wonder how they can report this, but the captain says it's all just a dream, so they said he had nothing to report. It's just short for Leviathan, the god of the ocean, and there's a bright light, and they arrive at the devil's continent, and he's shocked. The story continues with the duo arriving on the shores of the demon continent, where Lydia encounters the Kraken, leading to an epic kaiju battle. As Ruri sits there in terror, the girl in the game stops seeing the Setsu and asks for help. When the Kraken seems to have the upper hand, Lydia even splatters a ridiculous amount of ink, only to be captured after a short fight. The sea god gains the upper hand again, and defeats the Kraken and arrives there in his human form. He officially introduces Livia as his good friend. The sea god turns out Ruri even sets his sights on her, lucky to have the opportunity. Thrilled to have this opportunity, Lydia turns her attention to the Setsu, and begins to resent him for not helping her, stating that the ink marks on her body are the result of her inaction, explaining that she expected it not to be the Kraken. It's a challenge for him to deal with the character, and he admits that he wanted to witness a spectacular continuous kaiju battle because it's so rare that the ocean god suddenly lands. After 5 years of no contact, starts to complain about being bullied, which he considers rude, was in contact with him so that he could act as an organic boat to get to the demon continent, even after he left it to fend for himself in battle, which causes Setsu to blush as he lists all of his possessions did something wrong. They stop when Ruri wants to know what they're going to do with the defeated Kraken because they can't leave him lying like that, as Lydia comments that Setsu will take care of it. The guy was surprised the responsibility is on her. She thinks outside the box, and after a while she makes squid rings out of them, and the first batch is ready, and Rory blows it to cool it down, but she looks reluctant to eat it. The girl has some courage, finds and takes her first bite. She loves it. Lydia also comments that she hasn't had her famous deep-fried calamari in a long time, but she prefers it. Continent. Lydia points out that there is a fishing village nearby, and that there is evil beyond this mountain. Barrow Demon Lord's castle. Setsu, upset where his package should go, comments that he also has business with the recipient, Lydia. He wonders if there is a package from the man to stop the ocean. Ruri is surprised that Lydia knows who to give up and is shocked that she doesn't know who the ocean god is. Des says that his package is for the demon lord Des, which causes a look of fear on his face. He even loses color as Lydia tells him that the rest of the trip will be on foot. He will die, feels like his job is over, and Setsu starts to leave, a little surprised that he isn't accompanying them. Lydia points out that she kept her promise and kept oceanic peace in the seas, like bowing to him with a new female companion, but he expects her not to be offended. Setsu doesn't have a clear explanation. He gets her attention. Some devil boys pull his shirt asking if they had a fight with their crush, and advise him to apologize no matter what, since he is a man. The boys conclude that he does not understand female nature. Their comments start to drive him crazy, so he gives them squid rings, and tells the kids they love it. He states that they should make some for their parents. Lydia is open to the idea as Ruri has a lot of kraken left, and also points out that if they make some for the villagers it will rot and go to waste option, so he loads it on a cart and drives off with it to the village before he arrives. The villagers are in a miserable situation, as the kraken's presence makes it worse for them to be unable to fish, which is an impending war with the humans. If things continue like this, trade is cut off, their food stores will soon run out. One of the villagers has had enough, so they get together and offer to fight the squid. They promise to eat right away, and the villagers are surprised to find that the dreaded squid has returned as their meal, until that evening, when the villagers celebrate the squid's death. The Setsu cooks fried squid. He even impresses with his display of swordsmanship, while Liwa is given VIP treatment because she is seen as a god. They give her the best seat. During this time the Devil Lord's personal bodyguard is the best eat with drink, walks around, and in the distance he sees the village lit up. He interprets it as a human attack, and runs towards the village to save his people, while Rory calls Lever to discuss Setsu, and how he knows they belong. He explains that he fought with the Demon Lord 5 years ago, when Setsu tried to cross the ocean without his permission. After he defeated him he recruited him to help end the war, and he tells a story where he reveals that Setsu is a famous hero. This makes her sad about her kingdom, but it also explains her power, and how she knows such high-ranking people. A confused Lydia, who no longer knows why she respects a man of her stature, unless asked, insists that he will not talk about it. With Lydia's promise to Setsu, the recent decrease in sea accidents, Ruri wants to know if the god of the sea is angry with Setsu. Based on his previous comments, he was disappointed, but seeing him again after a long time, a happy girl notices him staring at Setsu, and commenting that he should love her. Lydia tries to play it down by saying that a sea god can't fall in love with a human, and their heart-to-heart stops when Vlad announces that he's willing to put himself out there and save the villagers. The villains all look at her. The surprised kids have to offer her squid rings. She realizes there's no danger after having another party. She puts up a sign telling people it's sold, but this is when things start. While Rory sleeps, Lydia grabs a fresh fish from the dock. Vlad lays low and apologizes for his previous actions, surprised to see him around the village in his human form. Setsu joins them and sees Vlad. He was happy. Until now, he recognizes Setsu by the magic power of the sword and the sound of the squid, but he talks about his appearance change. The hero finds it strange that the closest officer of the Demon Lord is outside the castle. He wants to know why, while Vlad confirms his suspicions. He discovers that he is looking for Libya. He is surprised that the lost hero Setsu is also there. He swallows his pride and pleads with them to save the Demon Lord. Vlad explains that he is asking to marry a man named Desistale. Taran. Lydia doesn't see a problem with it, but the head guard says it's not a good order, because the Demon Lord is being subjugated through a set of curses. A powerful curse is embedded in the necklace. The hero's intrigued by this spell. Even a Demon Lord can't be defeated, and Vlad is even more surprised when he says that the humans invaded the war about a month ago with massive weapons, and even soldiers who, like the people, have left the flag of their country behind, and they have sent ambassadors, but have not yet heard from them. Taking advantage of the demon lord's reluctance to go to war, Taran offers to negotiate on their behalf, believing that Vlad has the power to finish him off war because he is the richest merchant in the world. Most of the merchant ships in the sea belong to his company. He is basically the Jeff Bezos of the fantasy world. Both humans and demons need merchants to wage war across the continent, so he has something. When Leverage Setsu starts arguing with Vlad about the matter, promising that it's no honor that the demon lord is willing to become a slave to stop this war, Lydia points out that he's doing it because he made a promise to himself. Keep calm, this blow will set you up a bit because the sea god continues. It's just that the stupid woman clings to the promise she made to the missing person, but that's why they face her alone to prevent them. Vlad continues to give them more details about the situation, but the date of the wedding ceremony is unknown. What does he know? He knows that they have no time to waste. The head guard warns that Taran is surrounded by skilled guards. Along the way to the castle determines who can try his magical powers and serve him. Lydia says that she will deal with all the fodder, causing Vlad to bow gratefully. Livia had the ability to follow him, and the two of them quickly set off into the night. As they ran through the forest, the monsters attack, but Liva quickly deals with them. They stop for a moment to discuss their plan, which is to stop the wedding and defeat Taran, and both give a clear time frame and type of enemy, which makes sure that these attacks are not from both sides, but from a third party. Just like the last war, this war was not started by accident, and this is very convenient. Taran shows up selling peace with the cursed necklace, so he makes sure the merchant at least knows they're attacked by the beasts again, and Liva deals with them once more, commenting on how much stronger he is. Into castle like the sea, God thinks about how lucky he is to see another part of the world thanks to Setsu's adventures. He returns to the present when the destination appears, and concludes part 2.